Hello everybody, welcome back to the Advanced Vape channel. Today we're going to be talking about the MISTER TANK RTA from TRIPLESIXMODS. This is the same company that made the Norris RDA. Before we talk about the tank itself, I'll take just a second talking about the packaging. I love the picture on the front, Mr. T on a tank. As far as what's included in the package, it comes with an extension kit, glass and chimney section. I like that it comes with it, you don't have to buy it separately. That's not what I have on here right now. I have the short kit on there, but you can see it does add quite a bit of height to it, and I like that it comes with it. It also includes a Delrin top section, which I haven't used because I don't like Delrin threading onto steel like I've mentioned in previous reviews. So we'll go on and set this aside and talk about the tank itself. The first thing that kind of came to my mind when looking at the tank is that it's made really well, machined really well, and it also kind of bears a resemblance to the Mason dump tank. At least in the bottom part, this airflow looks quite a bit like it. It has this sort of silver circular pin that stops the airflow turning, and that's just like the Mason dump tank. Everything else not too similar, but the insides are totally different on this versus the dump tank. And I really like this top section. Another reason why I haven't switched away from this one to try the Delrin is I haven't really had a reason to. I like the way this one feels. So I'll take it apart just a little bit to show you. It has a top fill with kind of a rubber gasket around there. And that kind of has a couple benefits that I'll talk about later. Decent sized fill holes. I haven't had any problems filling it. And we'll go in and look at the build deck. Really smooth, high quality threads on this. And this is that smaller chimney on there. The build deck is sort of, I guess you would call it semi-postless. So 2 terminals, and both legs from each side have to go into the terminal. Which for me, in experience, has turned out to be a really difficult build deck to build on to get it looking good. And if you're doing something like staples, it becomes extremely difficult to the point of just being annoying to try and get staples fit in there. I think it would probably help if you put kind of a 90-degree little claw at the end of the legs, bend it down just a little bit so that it can kind of latch in there. If it had multiple holes, it wouldn't be a big deal, but you're trying to get the legs to share the holes. And so one leg has to stretch far on one and short on another. So you can see the upper leg on this one has to reach all the way over, while the short leg doesn't have to go as far. And that's not a big deal, but when it comes to getting the screws tightened in there, it just makes it a little bit tedious. You gotta just kind of mess with it and work with it. And that's why I went on and put this on here now, because I don't want to try and do this with the camera in the way. It would end up just taking longer than anybody really wants to watch. I wouldn't call it a difficult deck to build on. It's just a little bit more time consuming than other build decks. So I already put this on here, and I'll probably adjust it a little bit because, as you can see, they're kind of tilting a little bit. But overall, it's a fairly unique build deck, and I wouldn't say that it's the hardest out there, but it's not the easiest either. It's just kind of a little bit tedious. So let's go on and zoom in close and get through the dry fire. Okay, so I did my best to try and get them lined up, but it's sort of a conflict between them wanting to curve like this and then also being out far enough to be over the airflow. So my main priority is to get them over the airflows evenly rather than be angled in as close to that as I can get them. because it's sort of postless, the legs on one side want to push at a different way than the other side, so that it kind of gets that curve to it. So I could get them straight, but it would be up higher and a little bit closer. So I'm just going to try and dry fire it like this, and then we can make some final adjustments once it's heated up. Okay, so I think that looks good. Not a difficult dry fire, really. And I didn't really have to adjust them too much. I think we're ready to move on to wicking. So as you can see, this kind of has, I guess what I would consider kind of an antiquated wicking system. It's just slots there. And I feel like some of the wicking systems that we've seen more recently are a little bit more engineered for efficiency, I guess is a good way of saying it. This is kind of the wick system that we would have seen months back, maybe a year back. So it's just putting them in there and then putting the chimney on and it kind of squeezing it into place. So I'm going to be using Kendo Gold on this, and we'll zoom back out. So if you can tell, I'm not wicking heavy at all. I'm kind of trying to maintain its kind of looseness in those coils. And I'm going to cut it right at about where this little lip is on the silver. That kind of denotes how far down the chimney goes. So that's where I'm going to cut it. And go on and saturate it to make it a little bit easier to get the wicks in place, since there's nothing to hold it down except the chimney. This is a pretty thin juice that I'm using today, 60/40. And now I'm just going to kind of roughly put it in the channels and look at the length on it. Cut it down a little bit if I need to. Okay, so now I'm just going to gently start to put the chimney on so that I can fit them in these channels and check the length again. Okay, so now that I've got it unscrewed all the way, screwed in all the way, I'm going to unscrew it and just take a look and make sure that they're all looking okay. And I think we're good. Really easy to put together, not difficult at all. So now when it comes to filling is when this kind of silicone sleeve comes into play. I'll go in and fill it real quick. So if you remember the video for the Sherman, you'll remember me talking about how screwing it on there puts a lot of pressure downwards on the juice, which can cause leaking. And I suspect in this one that's completely prevented by this kind of rubber seal. So when you screw it on there, you don't feel that downwards pressure happening at all. So it just kind of screws on and that's it. I don't really have to worry about it oversaturating from me taking the top off. Whereas on the Sherman, if your tank is full and you unscrew that top, it's going to flood the deck like crazy. And it doesn't really do that on this. So I like the rubber kind of seal in there. I feel like it does its job extremely well. And for this build, I'm going to try it at about 100 watts. If I forgot to mention it, this is a quad-core alien build. So 4 cores of 30 gauge. So although these airflows seem really small, it's actually pretty airy in there with it all the way open. So it's not at all as constricted as you think that it would be with that small of an airflow. So really quite big clouds for this being a 60/40 juice, and that's kind of where this tank lies for me. The flavor is good, but it's not in the same league as some of the other RTAs that I've done. So it's a cloud tank for me, just a straight up cloud tank. Like it does have good flavor, but it's not great flavor at all, and I think that's most likely due to wicking speed. It's fast enough, it keeps up, especially with a thin juice like this, but on builds that I've done before, like a staple that requires a lot of juice, and then you put a thicker juice in on top of that, and there's really just not enough wick speed to keep up with that and still have good flavor. So it's plenty of wick speed to just make clouds, but if you're going for flavor, it's just a little bit slow for me. And because of the design of how those wicks go in there, there's really not a lot of adjustment that you can do other than making them shorter. There's no real air channels to be added in like you could with the Griffin or the Troll. And it really just comes down to making it shorter, and then you get to the point where it's so short that it's just going to flood. So I've experimented with wicking this a few different ways, and I haven't really found an easy, consistent, reliable way to make it wick faster, and I think that's probably just down to the design. Overall, it's just a high quality, well made cloud kind of tank. If you're not putting really big builds in there and flavor isn't your absolute top priority, it's a good choice. You can fit really big builds in here if you want to, but wick speed is going to come into play there if you're looking for flavor, as well as the build issues that I talked about. Putting staples in here is really difficult, or at least it was for me. These aliens weren't that big of a deal because you can move aliens around easier than you can staples, but staples are a really firm wire, so bending them is a little bit more difficult. Overall, though, the build that I have on here and the juice that I have in here is a good combination. Fairly thin juice with a good flavor build and good clouds. But the flavor's not as good as other tanks that I've reviewed. So really, like I said, just a cloud tank for me. But for people that are looking for decent flavor and big clouds, then it's a good choice if flavor isn't your top priority. So that'll bring us to the end of this video about the Mr. Tank RTA from TRIPLESIXMODS. If you like this video on our channel, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. And as always, if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments or send me an email. Thanks.